Hey there, this is Rick. I hope you're having a great day. Okay, we're still in lockdown, and this is just another little video diary from Rick World. Hair's definitely getting a bit longer, going for the big 80s hair again. We're all going to look like we're from the 80s when we come out of this lockdown, because none of us can get haircuts at the moment. So anyway, how have you guys been? We're still in lockdown. It's been about 3 months now, hasn't it? And I'm slowly starting to go stir crazy. Normally I'm sort of a home dweller. I spend a lot of time at home. I tend not to go out, you know, without great effort. So technically it shouldn't be bad for me. And for the first couple of months, it hasn't been too bad. But I'm finding now, especially the good weather's here, I'm really starting to get that sense of being stir crazy. And I'm really kind of chomping on the bit to get out there. In fact, the other day I went to Damon's Field, and I had to take my trees down. I've got some apple trees that I no longer have in the garden. I was going to give them to Damon to put in his field. And under the rules, we're allowed to go on a day trip to somewhere as long as we're outside. We can meet up with one other person as long as we maintain social distancing. So I was completely within the rules. So off I went to Damon's Field, took a drive. It was nice to get out. Now the thing with Damon's Field is I totally associate Damon's Field with a place to relax and unwind. And what I didn't realise was how wound up I had become. And when I was just sat there with a coffee, and obviously Damon was there as well. He was working on his field. That's basically his job, his livelihood. So I was sat there in my van, just unwinding, enjoying the sound of the birds chirping and the peace and quiet. And I could feel the tension just like falling out of me. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized just how wound up I was becoming, or how wound up I had got. And within about an hour, I was so tired, I could barely keep my eyes open. It was really strange. But I came away from there feeling much, much more relaxed. You know, I felt like I'd been there and just, I don't know, I felt so unwound. And like I say, it was only when I was just sat there drinking my coffee, I didn't realise how stressed, how wound up, how tense I'd got. And it's this lockdown. It's like this slow drip feeding of tension. And you know, I don't do tension that well. I don't do stress that well. It's one of the reasons why I try to live a life where I stay away from stress as much as possible. And but this lockdown, it's almost like this drip feeding, this slow torture, if you like. And like I say, I realised it the other day when I went to Damon's place, and because I associate Damon's Field with a place to unwind, and I didn't realise just how much I was wound up, and I've been really conscious of it ever since. So now, you know, this not being able to go out and stuff, it's I'm very, very aware of it being this constant tension that's in the background. Like use the metaphor of the frog in the slowly boiling water. If the water is boiling slow, being heated up slowly, he doesn't notice. And it's kind of that sort of scenario. So yeah, I'm really chomping at the bit to get back out and get my life back, you know. Not that I had much of a life anyway. You know, it's sort of, there's so little that I do and you get passionate about, but yeah, it's starting to take its toll now. And I know just recently they're saying we can now go out and meet up to 6 people. So there is this gradual wind down of the lockdown taking place now, but it's still very strict. You've still got to keep the social distancing. Now, social distancing, that's something that's really, I hope it's something I never ever get used to. A couple of times I've had to run a couple of errands, and I've ended up sort of on somebody's doorsteps, sort of 6 feet away, having long conversations with them, and that's just weird. It's just, you know, the fact you can't go in and have a cup of tea with them. It's just, it feels so wrong. You know, obviously it's the right thing to do, but it just feels so inhumane, you know. But yeah, I was doing okay up till about a couple of weeks ago, and then I'm really starting to chomp at the bit now to get this over and done with. And I would imagine, you know, a lot of people are in exactly the same boat. But obviously it is what it is. I guess we just got to kind of stick it out as long as we can, until such a time as it's okay and it's safe to not have to do this anymore. And let's just hope that comes sooner rather than later. Now, changing the subject, I very recently invested in one of these. And this, let me just turn the camera around, make sure you can see it okay. This is a pressure cooker. And it's basically like a slow cooker, except it's a really quick slow cooker. And you basically chuck in whatever you want in there. It'll cook rice or anything like that. And what I've been doing, I've been putting meat, a cupful of dry rice, cupful of water, sprinkle a few veg over the top, pop the lid on, lock it off, let it run for about 30 to 35 minutes, and you've got yourself what is the equivalent of a slow cooked meal, but because it's been cooked under pressure, it's done really quickly. So within 30 minutes, you've got this really, really nice sort of risotto or stew type meal, where the meat is really tender. In fact, it's more tender than if you slow cook it. And so far, I've only had it sort of about half a week, and every meal I've made in it so far has been really impressive. So that's basically going to be now in place of my slow cooker, because the slow cooker, I kept forgetting to start it. I'd get up in the morning, sort of go about my business, do whatever I'm doing, and then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd suddenly remember, oh no, I didn't put the slow cooker on for my meal that evening, because you need at least kind of 4 hours for a slow cooker to cook a meal. And so I was ending up having to have meals much later than I normally do. I much prefer to have an evening meal sort of, you know, very, very early evening, sort of 5 o'clock-ish. Otherwise it gives me problems. I can't sleep very well if I eat too late into the day. So anyway, hopefully this slow cooker is going to change all that. So if I do forget, well, I don't need to worry about remembering now, because if I need a meal, I can rustle something up like a slow cooked crock pot meal, but within like half an hour. So it's really good. Now, I have had a busy week, or couple of weeks actually. I've taken down my conservatory, and I'll show you some footage of it. It's basically now just an empty space where the conservatory was. Now, in the previous video I mentioned that I was having all sorts of problems with the conservatory. It was old, leaky, creaky, starting to fall apart, and was subsiding a little bit as well. So at some point a new conservatory will be fitted. Now originally it was going to be around now when they were going to fit it. Obviously we've got the whole lockdown situation. I have been in touch with the company. Now they're saying that the suppliers are sort of going back to work. They're on a sort of skeleton crew at the moment. And so there's going to be delays, obviously. So I'm wondering whether I should go ahead and get the artificial grass. But basically, I was going to put the conservatory down and then have artificial grass for the rest of the garden. I've got a nice surface there. It's all covered in concrete. So artificial grass will be perfect for that. But unfortunately, this delay is probably going to go right through the summer. Now, because we're stuck in lockdown, and we're possibly going to be still stuck in lockdown during the summer, I'm going to be making much more use of my garden. So what I'm thinking is actually getting some artificial turf that will come right up to the house, just tacking it down temporarily, and then when they come to build the conservatory, I can roll it up again, get it out of the way, let them build the conservatory. When the conservatory is done, I'll put the grass back down again. Obviously there'll be an offcut where the footprint of the conservatory is, but it's only going to be a small conservatory, so it's only going to be like 2 meters wide. So I'll have this 2 meter by 5 meter offcut, which I can either sell or perhaps put in my front garden or something. I can cross that bridge when I get to it. But I'm actually thinking of doing that, so that at least if I've got to go the whole summer with my garden as it is, at least it's going to be, you know, reasonably pleasant to be out there with the artificial grass, as opposed to this bare concrete which is out there at the moment. But anyway, these are just things I'm thinking about, all first world issues. Now, I know a lot of people will scoff at the idea of artificial grass, and I know in some people's eyes that'll make me a terrible person. But to be honest, I've got a little bit of artificial grass out there. I've had it out there for probably about 5 years, and it's really good. It's how can I put it? It actually feels like grass, it looks like grass, it makes you feel like you're walking on grass. And there's no maintenance. You haven't got to trim it. It doesn't grow. You haven't got the, you know, the problems of needing to. If you want to put stuff on grass, the grass grows up around that stuff, and you have to trim it. Now, artificial grass has become so popular. There's a massive market out there now, and the quality of it as well is getting better and better and better. But yeah, I think artificial grass, especially when you've got concrete out there, I really don't want to get involved with digging up concrete because underneath that concrete is just rubble and hardcore, you know, so to lay a turf on that is just going to be horrible. So I haven't really got much choice. But yeah, artificial grass I think is going to be the way forward for me, and I think I will do that sooner rather than later. Now, when I had removed the old conservatory, it left this horrendous scar on my back wall where I'd used this bitumen strip, this flashing strip, which sticks against the brick and then goes down onto the roof of the conservatory, and it just kind of seals up the roof. But it left this horrendous scar going right across the wall, and it's this horrible black tarry bitumen, and it took me almost a week to remove it. It was a horrible, horrible job. I bought a big bottle of this bitumen remover, and what you do is you paint it on with a paintbrush, and it slowly eats away at the bitumen and turns it into a liquid, and then you can wipe that liquid away. But I put a coat on. You have to leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes, then you go up, wipe it off with a cloth, then put another coat on with a paintbrush, and you have to do that about 5 or 6 times before eventually you get through to the brick, and then you put it on the brickwork, and then again wipe that off with a cloth. And the problem is it stains the brick, and the brick looks awful afterwards. So then afterwards I had to go over with an angle grinder with a wire brush attachment and go over the brick and try to clean the brick up and the mortar up. And luckily I've done a good job, and it's relatively clean and tidy now, but before it looked just awful. The problem is with that bitumen remover, all I could do was I could only go about, I don't know, about 1.5 feet, 2 feet a day, because it took so long. So the whole thing took almost a week, and I was dealing with this horrible black tarry liquid all the time. It was just disgusting, and it gets on your hands, in your skin, on your face, in your hair. So in the end I was wearing like thick trousers, a hoodie with the hood up, because I kept getting sunburned ears as well, because I was doing it in direct sunlight. And so I was out there in the heat of the sunshine, sort of 70, 80 degrees, in a hoodie and thick trousers. And I basically kept those clothes to do this horrible job, and then at the end of the job, and it was all done, I just had to throw the clothes away because they were beyond salvation, and there was no way I was going to put those in the washing machine, because they would just totally contaminate the washing machine. And so anyway, it's a job done, and I'm very, very happy about it. And like I said, it's just a case now waiting for the new conservatory, which is going to be a very small conservatory, very modest one. It's not going to be anything grand or anything special. It's just to put some space between me and the garden, because what I've found since I've removed the conservatory is that this is where I normally sit. And ordinarily the patio doors are there, and then I would have obviously the old conservatory ran up to there, which is only 2 meters wide, but it just put this big space between me and the garden. But now if I sit there, I'm literally a couple of feet away from the back garden, and it just feels really strange. The only problem is I've got houses that are just there. and they kind of overlook, so they can look straight into my living room. So the conservatory just kind of affords me just a little bit more privacy, and so I don't feel quite so overlooked. And obviously in the winter time as well, it's just an extra layer so that it helps to retain the heat into the house. So that's the plan anyway. Now, I've just had a recent birthday. Thank you everybody for your lovely well wishes and your birthday greetings. Got lots of goodies, lots of prezzies, and one particular favourite was this lovely wolf mug that I was sent, and thank you very much to the person who sent me that. You know who you are. And so that's taken pride of place on my little shelf. I've got my anime characters. I've got Kirito and Toothless looking after it. So now the problem is with birthdays, and I forget, I do this every year and I forget, I overindulge. I'm usually careful with the foods I eat and the things I drink and all the rest of it, but birthday times or Christmas times I tend to overindulge a little bit. And once again, I overindulged. I bought myself a bottle of proper Coke, none of this diet nonsense. I got a proper bottle of Coke. I got some really nice specialised coffees, and overindulged. Got a chocolate cake as well, and another birthday cake. I got 2 birthday cakes, which was lovely. And unfortunately, with all the overindulging, and I bought, there was loads of other junk food as well that I had, and a few takeaways. I ended up giving myself gastritis again. So unfortunately, right now, I've had gastritis for about 4 days. I'm on omeprazole tablets right now just to reduce the acid in the stomach. Basically, gastritis is like an inflammation of the stomach lining, and I've had it before. I'm quite susceptible to it. It's basically coffee and chocolate and anything acidic like tomatoes are generally the main culprits. But fortunately, because I've had it before, I'm now experienced with it. I know how to deal with it. So it's just going to be a case of, at least for the next month, no coffee, no chocolate, no tomatoes. Got to be careful about the foods I eat. They've got to be non-spicy, just bland foods, which is fine. I can do that. That sort of is my general diet anyway, because I know if I don't have that sort of general diet, I have issues. But it's kind of annoying. But what's more annoying is I'm more annoyed with myself because I forget. When I overindulge, I forget that if I have certain things, I end up triggering gastritis. And so it's, I can go a whole year without it. And then I think, I'm going to overindulge. I'm going to have all these acidic things and all these spicy things. And then within a couple of days, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Because it puts me out of action for at least a sort of a month, possibly 2 months, and it means I can't do coffee. I love coffee, I live on coffee, but during times of gastritis I can't touch coffee, so it's really quite frustrating. But there we go, that's what life throws at us, so there we go. And you may have noticed these, I've actually got, with gastritis you've got constant nausea, so I have to permanently wear anti-nausea bands. These are surprisingly good. They actually work. They're anti-sickness or travel sickness bands. These little bands that they put little pressure where those little white dots are. You have to put pressure on both of your wrists. Actually, that looks out in the wrong place, but it's actually, let me just adjust that. That's it. It's basically on your wrist in that little spot there. Oops, let me just, that spot there, that is the pressure point on both your wrists. If you're feeling nauseous, if you put pressure on both of those points simultaneously, it stops you feeling nauseous. It's really quite clever, but it actually works. And so I have multiple packs of these bands, so if ever I do feel nauseous, I just pop them on, and within a minute or two the nausea goes. It's really I'm always fascinated to know how people discovered that, but it does work. Cool. So that's pretty much it for this lockdown video number 9 or 10, I can't even remember now. Lockdown is slowly being eased. Like I say, we can see up to 6 people now simultaneously whilst social distancing. I really hope this thing doesn't go on much longer because it is driving me up the wall now. And I'm really starting to get stir crazy. Actually, I did want to go out today to just have to take a little walk in the forest. Unfortunately, I've got 2 deliveries that are due any minute now, actually. So I'm going to have to obviously wait in for those. But at some point, possibly later today or tomorrow, I may actually head out in the van and go for a walk. I might even make another little video log from a walk in the forest. That will be nice, I think. Yes, I may very well do that. So that's it from me. Do let me know how you're getting on in your lockdown, how it's all going, whether you're still in lockdown or not, in the notes below. And it'd be interesting to hear your stories and how you're coping with this. Like I say, I'm starting to go really stir crazy, and I'm really chomping on the bit to get out there and just start living again. Get a bit of camping done, go out in the van, just especially with this beautiful weather. It just feels almost like criminal that we're stuck indoors with this beautiful weather going on out there. But such is life, that is where we're at, and hopefully, you know, at some point we'll get our lives back. But until then, well, not until we get our lives back, but until the next video, thanks for watching, have a great rest of the day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.